about my background. For those of you who don't know me or didn't hear my presentation the other evening with Ray. So I'm Bridgette Mayer, and I'm the owner, founder of the Bridgette Mayer Gallery. We've been based in Philadelphia now for 23 years. I also have an art consulting business that's completely separate called Bridgette Mayer Art Advisors. And I've done a lot of public art projects all over the United States and special commission work with that and work with corporations. And in 2017, wrote a book called The Art Cure, and ended up, and I knew that was going to be the launch of several books around business for artists. When I started my gallery, I was 26 years old. I had worked in New York for some amazing people and had worked in the museum world and realized that my passion was working with artists, contemporary artists. And when I was starting out, I was younger. Now I'm in my 50s with two young kids. And 23 years later, I've had some incredible business experiences in building a business from the ground up with zero clients, no backing, no finance behind me, literally just starting with all the experience I had had in the art world at that point. My program started out with emerging artists, then it grew to more established mainstream artists and blue chip artists. I pivoted to internationally known artists and then showing artists from around the United States. And then eventually, starting in 2017, I became very much interested in how could I take all of my business experience and business acumen, and how could I help artists take some of these ideas that I have utilized for 23 years to grow a successful gallery business that's very much sales, marketing, client, and very artist driven. And how could I make it simple for artists to start using this information to grow their own art careers? So trying to advance the slides. Let's see. I don't know why it's not letting me, Ray. It's so weird. I'm gonna have to stop sharing this.
I just wanted to also mention to people, if you haven't already done so, is just make sure you're muted. And if you have questions, you can drop them into the chat, and when appropriate, I'll bring them up, or we'll have the Q&A at the end. So thanks.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it this way. I wanted to share a picture of my gallery. One of the things I'm going to be talking about shortly is the 4 pillars that I believe all artists need to have a successful art career. And one of those pillars is having a vision for the type of career you'd like to have. When I started my gallery, I had barely any money. I signed a 1-year lease at that time, and didn't really know how much I would need to know to grow my business. And it took me a couple years to really start formalizing my vision. And the picture that you're seeing now is my initial gallery was the front of this building. And I had a dream to make it a beautiful state-of-the-art gallery. And it took me 7 years to realize that dream. I ended up doing well sales-wise, buying the building that my gallery's in on Washington Square in Philadelphia. And then I took 1 year and I hired this incredible Philadelphia architect to help me do a beautiful renovation. And I really wanted a place that I would be proud of, that artists that were exhibiting with me and had the chance to show their art would be proud to be a part of. I wanted it to feel like a top gallery in the city of Philadelphia, and we've achieved that. So my space grew from 600 square feet. This is the front. And it was really the front of the space, but it did not look like this, into a 3,000 square foot building and space that has storage, a meeting room downstairs, exhibition space, And to boot, I bought the building. So, and again, I didn't have any investors. This all came from me really dialing down into the essentials of what it would take to have a successful gallery. And that was really doing a lot of great sales and marketing. So as I mentioned, I in 2017 started pivoting to take my knowledge and to turn it into business books for artists. So these are the 4 books that I've written to date. I'm also working on a sales book and a finance book. Um, so that's forthcoming. And if you haven't heard of any of these books, they're all on Amazon. They're mini business courses in themselves. I put a lot of heart and soul and authenticity into them. I share my personal story of adoption and my childhood in the art cure. So if you want to hear from a gallery owner, you might enjoy some of these books. Early on, I noticed for myself that even though I had had lots of experience in the business world working for galleries and museums, I was all over the place when I started my gallery. I would jump around and I was really reactive to whatever was going on. My phone would ring, I would pick it up. Someone would walk in the gallery, I would turn my attention to that. I would get an email that would, divert my attention. So I noticed that I was jumping around a lot and I wasn't focused. And as I started to later on coach and work with artists, I noticed the same tendencies that, and maybe you relate to this. You bounce around from task to task like a pinball, almost like a pinball machine. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. Oh, my phone is going ping. I have to check this. I have to respond to this email. Oh, I have to feed my cat. I have to eat something. Oh, I know I need to work on this newsletter. Oh, actually, I really want to paint. So that's generally speaking how I've found that a lot of creatives operate. Um, and this is all good, but you have to start asking yourself, where's your focus? And within the first year of my gallery being open in 2001, 9/11 hit. That my gallery opened in May. 9/11 hit our country in September, and the art market went dead. And I don't know if any of you recall that time for yourselves with your career and your practice, what happened for you personally. What I discovered was that people just literally stopped buying art overnight, like that, boom. And it was a real moment. And for the month of September and the month of October, I sold one piece of art. I sold a print, and I made $200, and the artist made $200. I believe I paid my electric bill that month. I certainly didn't pay my rent. And I had overhead that I didn't cover for 2 months. And this was in the first several months of my gallery opening. So it became very kind of raw and scary for me, where I realized that the driver behind a successful gallery was bringing in clients, having a vision, having a mission, and being able to draw people in despite what was going on in our country and economically. And that the driver for my success and for the artists I was representing would be selling art and getting their work out there and getting people in that were interested in supporting this new business and supporting artists. So that became very real for me. What I realized early on was that um, I thought I knew a lot about sales and marketing. I had worked around it. If you looked at my resume, it was very impressive. But I quickly realized that I didn't know a lot about sales and marketing because things were not selling in my gallery. And the reason they weren't selling was I was not going out proactively to do the things that I needed to do to attract people coming in and to sell to the people who were coming in, foot traffic. I don't know if any of this feels familiar to you. as an artist. Maybe you've had a sense that you could be doing a lot more in your career, that there are opportunities that you've missed. There are people that have wanted to buy your work, but you just haven't known how to handle them. There are deals that have been that people have tried to make with you that have fallen by the wayside. These are all things that when you start really learning about the art of sales, and how to go through what I'm going to talk about shortly, which I call the customer journey. These are things that are meant to be overcome, an objection, and that being able to sell art and market art is actually a skill set. I know that if I called up any of you and said, hey, could you teach me how to mix a color or create this or paint like this? All of you in your own unique ways are masters at what you do in your studio. You've been honing the skill set for, I don't know how many years now. I know for me, I've been honing my skill sets in my business 23 years. I know Ray's been an artist for over 20 years. I know, for example, 30 years, I know if I wanted to work with sculpture and collage and process, the first person I would call and hire to teach me would be Ray. All of you have your specialty that you've put in your 10,000 hours in, and you would be an expert. When I was sitting in my gallery in 2001, looking at a month where I made 200 bucks and I probably had about $8,000 worth of bills, I literally said, oh shit, this is way harder than I ever imagined. I need to become a student of sales. I need to get very curious on how top galleries or top businesses that sell really well are doing it. What are they doing? I don't know. I only had a sense of what the galleries I worked in were doing. And some of them were actually struggling. So they weren't selling that well. So at that point, I became a obsessed student of sales. And I realized that the driver, as I mentioned, to this vision of having this beautiful space and being able to command price points beyond the average of $10,000, which I was selling at the time in 2000 or showing at the time in 2001. I wasn't selling that yet, but I realized that I really needed to learn the skill set inside and out. I needed to become an expert. I needed to become confident. I needed to know the language of it. Just like making art has its own language, selling art and marketing art is its own unique skill set. So I took this on and I committed myself to making sales my superpower. And if you walked into my house, you'd see well over 200 books on sales. Um, well over. And, maybe you've heard people say, like, if you can sell something, you can walk into any situation, you're set for life. And throughout working with my artists in my gallery, I realized that, their superpowers were making art. And, they did not even know how to get people into their own studios. So in 2017, I made a commitment to start teaching some of what I knew from my business experience and to helping artists because it's not taught in graduate school. I didn't learn it, even working in the businesses I worked in. Some of you went to school, maybe you had a professional development class, maybe you didn't. I can't tell you how many artists I've coached where they've never worked on the business side of their careers. And it's not really part of our culture educationally for artists, even though it should be. So before I go into that slide, so I really try to distill it down to my belief is that a successful career in the arts has four components. The first is vision. The second is marketing. The third is sales, and the fourth is finance. And this is aside from your vision of the work that you're doing in the studio. This is the nuts and bolts of running a successful art practice and business. So you need vision, marketing, sales, and finance. Um, this picture is a recent public art project that we've been working on in Virginia. This came out of me working with one of my artists saying, what is your vision for your art? Where do you imagine your art going? She had never really thought in a bigger way. It was more like, I just go to my studio, I make my art, and then I give it to you or I give it to other galleries and they sell it. And I said, sorry, that's not good enough. Like, let's talk about what's your big dream? What's something you've had in the back of your mind? She said, actually, I really would like to start making sculpture. So for many years, we worked on her sculptures and she honed it and we sold it. And now it's the bread and butter of her practice. Um, then we moved into public art. I said, don't you think it's time to do a public art piece? And that wasn't part of her vision. So I'm sharing this photo because it looks so um, simple, but this came out of probably 5 years of honing a vision on public art. Here's another example of someone having a vision. This is a Bridgette Mayer Art Advisors project I did for a Philadelphia client where they had no art on the walls, and they liked one of the artists that I represent. And I asked the artist, what is your vision? What is one of your dreams for your paintings? And he had been painting small to medium-sized works. And he said, God, I would really love to see more of a mural size painting sitting on someone's wall, a beautiful piece, maybe a museum, but right now, let's start with a home. So this painting was a three-piece commission painting that literally started from the artist kind of putting the vision out there. And some of you have it in reverse. You're saying, well, I'm going to wait for someone to show up and say, hey, I want to give you this opportunity. And what I've learned is it does not work that way. The vision always comes first. My vision for my building came first. I knew at some point I want to buy this building. I knew I wanted to renovate. That was my vision. I saw the space. Some of you have utilized this with your art as far as the type of work you're making. I'm saying take it to a higher level and utilize this with what your vision is for your career. And some of you might be saying, I've done that. I would challenge you, make a list of all the things you've had a vision of, because most of you haven't really done it. And I get artists that say, oh, I've done that already. I've tried that. Oh, tell me all the things you've tried. I want to know. But what we usually find is that they haven't really articulated their vision. And why am I talking about this before I talk a little bit about sales is because having these different visions creates a lot of energy and new ideas that end up attracting what you want. And some of these visions have become these larger projects for artists that have really shifted their practice and what they've been able to achieve financially. And it always has started with this vision. And the interesting thing for me is that artists have no problem doing this in their studio. You guys are full of amazing ideas and you probably have more ideas than you can execute on in the studio. But when it comes to what's possible, where do you see your art? Who do you see buying it? Where do you see it landing? That's the part that's missing. And a lot of it kind of ties into sales for artists. I've noticed lots of trends of what gets in an artist's way around sales. This is literally coming from, I talk to hundreds of artists every year, especially with my gallery program. People email me, people come in, people want to reach out to me, people share what their challenges are. And I've taught a couple of sales classes now, so I have lots of data from the classroom. And this also was some of my early stuff that was getting in the way with me being successful with selling art in my gallery. Um, and if any of these resonate with you, my whole thing is it's time to take responsibility, to be responsible with the results you're getting or not getting. So most artists have told me, I don't know how to sell, I don't know how to sell my art. I don't really know what a sales process is.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with this. It feels commercially, it doesn't feel very creative. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to bother people. I don't want to have conversations around money. It feels icky. I feel uncomfortable. I've actually had artists say, and this is really interesting to me, oh, I don't need to do that. My gallery will do it. Okay, well, what happens if your gallery goes out of business? What happens if the gallery you're working with doesn't know how to sell art or is not doing that great overall? And this happens.
Mhm.
Some of you have worked with galleries or have been in shows where nothing sells. That is attributed to a business owner not doing their job. And this is where I say to artists, do not give up your power with your ability to market and sell your own art. Um, and yes, my gallery has a contract. We have different types of limits around markets. However, um, I have no issue with an artist saying, hey, here's someone that is interested in my art. I went to a networking event or I did this online and it brought a client in. Can you close a sale for me? So don't get lazy. Don't put it all on your gallery. You're missing financial opportunities. A lot of people want to hear from artists directly. They love artist talks. They love hearing about the work from the artist. And that typically helps me close sales when artists are in that position. Some artists have a mindset, my art will sell itself. Some people think their art is so good and maybe it has sold itself. We've had shows where, yes, it feels like the art is literally selling itself. Um, but that also changes within different types of bodies of work. But so, you know, the mindset of your art will sell itself, that's an interesting one. Um, and then, as I mentioned earlier, it's not creative to sell my art. I'm not a sellout. So I've always been interested with that because being an artist, whether you like it or not, you're running a business. You are the CEO of your studio and what goes on there and how you're running that business. So how the heck do you have a business where you're not being responsible around your money coming in, money going out, and what opportunities you're creating for financial success through your sales? That's not being a business owner. Um, and that's kind of a cop-out attitude sometimes in our culture. Another real one for artists is I hear this a lot. Gosh, I just don't have enough contacts to reach out to. I don't know who to reach out to. I've never really built up a list. I've never really marketed to build a list. So this is a real reality for some artists. They don't really have a list. They've never worked on it. Um, and the big one too that I have heard is that I'm not really doing much online. I literally talked to an artist. She's like, ah, I hate social media. I hate Instagram. I hate Facebook. I don't make videos. I barely have a website. And I said, well, how are people finding you? And she said, well, word of mouth. And I said, how's that going? I haven't had a sale all year. All right, well, word of mouth is not really working for you. So you really do. We're in a time right now where if you're not putting yourself out there, guess what? Someone else is, like Ray, and he's going to sell his art. So these are some of the things that get in an artist way with sales. And I don't know if any of these are resonating. And if you want to drop in the chat, what gets in your way, be honest. But a lot of it's really just not knowing. Because sales are really, they're a skill set. Just like I can't mix paint anymore. I can't work with brushes and prime a canvas. You guys can do that. I can't, but I can be in a room and work with a client and sell them, or I can write a message or send a newsletter with the intention to bring an interest and sell. One of the things that I like to talk about with artists is that there's actually something called a customer journey. And this is a new concept for people. There's a journey where a customer will go through this with finding art or finding an artist and then buying the art. There are 5 stages, and I like to break them down because I believe that if you really understand them, you can be in tune with the potential client or how to pull a client in. You might actually start to enjoy it when you understand it's a process. And you can increase your clients because they'll end up buying, coming in and then buying. And then the other end of that is increasing your client re-engagement. So this is the customer journey. It's firstly getting a customer. And if you go back up, it's marketing into pulling that customer in. Whether we all realize it or not, people are looking at us online. I did a workshop in Philadelphia last fall, and I had a panel with 5 collectors sitting on this panel. All these collectors were in their mid 50s through their late 60s. And I asked each one of them, how do you find the artists that you collect in your collection? These are the top responses. Instagram, I find them on Instagram. I'm on an email list and I get a newsletter, or I see something in print, whether it's a newspaper or magazine, or I see something in a show. But we kept coming back to that the top way that people are still finding artists is on Instagram. Now, if I had asked this question 5 years ago, the response would have been Facebook. That was what people were on in that 50 to 65-year-old demographic. We've noticed in the last 3 years that our clients have shifted online to Instagram. It used to be a young app. Now it's people are using it for research. The reason I'm talking about this is because if you're not putting some time over there in a quality way, you're not potentially pulling a customer in. One of the panelists on my collector panel is an interior designer. She told me, and I've used this method in my own work, that when she's looking for an artist, she will literally search hashtags and see what comes up. Artist California, sculpture California, woodcuts New Mexico. I had this random client that was looking for what she called cowboy art. And I was like, what is cowboy art? My gallery is contemporary art. And I was helping her with a small collection. So I literally went on Instagram and I typed in cowboy art. And hundreds of artists came up. It was paintings with cows, paintings with cowboys, skulls. And I was blown away. And I literally went through and I kept refining the hashtags and I kept finding new artists. So I'm telling you this because Google, a couple of years, people are still using Google to find you or find art, but now the new Google online are hashtags on Instagram. Take that and run with it. And with our gallery posts, I'm always looking for creative new ways to think about where could this piece end up. We had an artist that was doing something interesting and I kept imagining it near a swimming pool. So I called the hashtag swimming pool art. So that's a little piece of marketing advice. So going back to the customer journey, the journey is getting the customer. Then there's this communication phase where they're considering. It's the consideration stage. A lot of times this is where artists blow it. They don't respond fast enough. They don't respond in a professional manner. they might kind of push away a client with their attitude. So the consideration stage is a stage to ask questions. How did you find me? Oh, I found you on Instagram, or I saw something over here. I'm always looking at how did that client find me? What are they looking for? What are you looking for? What is your budget? These are all really interesting questions to ask during the stage because they literally will lay the groundwork in your response. Like if someone said, I get this all the time, I have an X by X size wall. I'm looking for something that is this or that, this color, this idea. I always ask, what is your budget? And here's why, because if their budget is $1,000 and you send them a PDF where you're showing them art that's 5, 10 grand, they're gone. But maybe you have prints that are 500 bucks. And if you put a few of them together, all of a sudden you're in their budget range. So what is your budget is a very important question to ask. There's so many responses to this question. I ask it all the time because I don't want to waste my time with showing the wrong art, and I don't want to waste their time. And if you think about what you have available to sell in your studio, it could range. Like I know just from working with Ray, like he has rocks that are 500 bucks. He has pieces that are $15,000, and he has everything in between. He has works on paper. He does custom commissions. So the sky's the limit. So asking the budget is really for you to hone in on what you could show them that would be right in alignment with what they're thinking about, and it keeps the flow going. Um, the third part of the journey is the purchase. And this is another area where artists get stuck because sometimes there are objections. Um, the top objection, and I'm sure all of you have gotten this, is pricing. That's a top one, and then timing. And then knowing how to handle some of these objections around what they're resisting to get to this purchase part of the journey, that's key in the sales process. When a sale is stalling for the gallery, I will, and we know that we're within their budget. We've done all the kind of research talking with them, and we're just stalling here. There are lots of methods to call out what the key issue is. And I like to do that by asking direct questions. And this is something I recommend when you're selling. Direct questions are, it's not being intrusive, it's not being obnoxious, it's being respectful of people's time and ideas. And I coach a lot of artists around communication and how to really communicate and to have clarity so you can know what the next step is. So if someone is not responding, and I'll just say, what's getting in your way? Is it the price? No, it's not the overall price. One weird thing that comes up a lot in my world is people um, have homes where they're, someone will say, my refrigerator just broke and I just bought one for 1,500 bucks. So the money I was going to put over here now went to that. I have to wait. And we have a payment plan. We have a deposit down payment plan that we offer. That's when I'll pivot to that. So that's typically how I'm able to overcome that. I literally just had a client say, I can't do this until October. And I said, well, why? Well, we had an unexpected expense. And I said, well, what if you put down a small deposit to hold it so no one else buys it? What could you put down? She's like, oh, you would let us do that. I said, of course. And by the way, we have payment plans. Oh, well, then we'd love to move ahead. So I let her tell me, what are you comfortable putting down? I'll put down 600. Okay. So asking that question and kind of putting the ball in their court. A lot of times artists get hung up because they're like, oh, I don't want to discount my work. I don't want to do a payment plan. I don't want to, I don't know, what if they disappear? My whole thing with artists is how many works of art do you have sitting in your studio that are unsold?
Mhm.
Sometimes artists will have 100 works of art. That's a good question to ask yourself right now. How many works of art do I have in my studio? Don't get hung up on it. Money loves to flow. Money comes in, money goes out. It's like the ocean. Let it come in. Don't get hung up on how it's coming in or how much. Create the opportunity through the payment plan, through the deposit down, and close the purchase. The next part of this journey is actually what happens after they buy. You know, they've installed the art, they're living with it, they're enjoying it. What do you do next? We love to follow up and say, tell me, are you enjoying your piece? Are you happy? Can you send me an installation photo of it? It could be a rough shot. Here's my cell, text it to me. Can I add you to my newsletter list? Anytime someone buys a work of art, they automatically get put on our collector email list. They get added to VIP events that we offer, or first looks at stuff, and then they get put on our newsletter list. And what I have found is that people love being updated once they buy an artist. They love knowing what's going on in your world, even if they're not buying again that year. This is how I've had a lot of repeat customers. So you want to think about, I had an artist tell me, oh, you know, clients should only buy one work of art of an artist. And I said, really? Like, where'd you get that idea? I don't know. It just feels weird if they just keep buying. I'm like, okay, that's a rule. That's a mindset. I literally have two clients that they're in a competition with each other who can own more of this particular artist's work that I represent. One's up to 10 paintings, the other one's up to 12. And they joke around, how many did he buy? How many did he buy? So I have no problem with someone wanting to collect 12 of your paintings or your works of art. And you shouldn't either. That's the biggest form of flattery and loyalty that I could think of. We have clients that typically will buy between 2 to 10 works of art by a particular artist. I have Ray was out of the gate with our show that I featured him in. We had a husband, wife. They bought 3 pieces for 3 different homes. They loved it so much. So is that a problem for me or Ray? No. Well, how about the rocks? Buy some rocks too. So you want to keep your customers and you want to re-engage them. What happens is that when you have a new body of work or something special you're doing, this is a great opportunity to re-engage and have more of a personal relationship with that person and share, hey, I'm just so excited for you to know this. I share a lot with clients, even if it's not about getting them to buy, it's more re-engaging them into dialogue around art and what's going on with an artist or the gallery. So re-engagement is a really important tool. If you have people on your list that have only bought one work of art, you should be trying to go after the next level of keeping them and re-engaging them into their next purchase. And that's what I would call low-hanging fruit. If they liked you, if they liked your art and had a good experience, there's no reason that they shouldn't be buying again. So here it is. So acquisition of a customer, consideration stage, purchase stage, retention stage, or keeping your customer. Part of this is just making sure they're happy with their purchase and it went well. And then step 5 is re-engaging them through notes, emails, thank you cards, newsletters, invitations to special things, studio events. So this is a big part of my sales teaching how to really hone in on each of these stages. This is a really fun thing that I created because I had artists telling me, I just don't know I don't know where to sell, how to sell. So I really thought about what are the elements that I do in the gallery of selling art. So we have methods of selling, we have the communication process, we have places to sell art, and then we have the sales goal. So this is a map that I use in my class to teach, really kind of like if someone's stuck, I'll say, like, let's talk about the sales map. Let's look at places to sell art. You have your studio, you have your website, you have online sites, you have social media. You also have your galleries. These are places that you can sell your art. Then we go over to methods of selling. And this is a deeper topic. There's warm and cold calls, emails that are warm emails, people you know, emails that are people you do not know. Methods of selling, you could be getting inquiries off of social media. We draft newsletters with the goal of getting inquiries from that newsletter. Sometimes we use advertisements, and then we do a lot of in-person meetings. A lot of artists do not do studio visits. I've been having an artist I'm about to show do pre-studio visits. We've pre-sold 8 paintings. Her show opens in 2 weeks. So this is all from in-person meetings in her studio where she kind of gave a preview, nothing formal, just invites into the studio. People love being invited in. Here are other places to sell. You have your art consultants, you have your galleries and gallery partners. You have the opportunity potentially for nonprofit or university galleries. Then you have this whole realm of existing clients and people who have bought from you in the past. And then you have with those clients the potential opportunity to go after client referrals. So this is a really important aspect of my business and the artists I work with, going after the referrals. We get a lot of clients that someone will come into their home and be like, wow, that's a really great piece. Oh, call Bridgette. Oh, this is the artist. Referrals are big. And some of you have never asked your clients for a referral. We ask often, hey, is there anyone you think that would in your world that might be interested or that is looking for art? I won't go into the communication process, but that's part of the sales process or the sales goal. So this is a little insight into, and this is where a lot of artists just get stuck. You're so in your head and you're like, I don't know what to do. Or you're like, I've tried this, but it hasn't worked. That's where we like to drill down into these different areas. And these are all the things that I teach in my Sales One class. And I teach it through, I have lots of videos in the portal. Let me reshare this. To go back to the PowerPoint. It's funky. All right. I hope I'm not boring you guys.
No, I think we've got quite a few questions actually, but I'll just
good.
for the right time to ask them.
I wanted to share this photo. This is a group of about 60 artists that I had in Philadelphia for a 2-day workshop. And we spent 2 days in this beautiful auditorium at PAFA. And I took them through my Art MBA program, which is online. And we spent probably 4 hours working on sales. So I really have a passion for working with artists. And I have lots of testimonials of what people have experienced from my coursework. And I'll share one at the end. I'd like to take a few questions, but briefly, I want to share that I have 2 sales classes that one is a self-study course online called Sales One. It's a go at your own pace curriculum. There's 21 training modules. I cover from front to the back, I gave you a peek into it, who and where to sell your art, how to build your list, how to market, how to price your art. That can be kind of a challenge for some artists. I talk about the sales process in a deeper way that I just shared with you. I go deeply into handling objections and give you a whole list of things. One of our secret weapons in our work is creating mock-ups. I have a whole video around that. It's a secret weapon for me. A lot of artists are like, wait, what? What's a mock-up? Like, you do what? sales scripting is a huge part of getting more comfortable around the language and how to sell to people. I love scripting. It's writing out what you want to say in advance so that you're more confident when you're either on the phone or through an email or in person. It works really well. I get into email newsletters. A lot of artists just don't know how to craft a newsletter to attract what they want. Newsletters are incredibly important, and your email list is very important. I have a love of conducting sales calls. I'm kind of a nerd. I talk about how to do them, whether it's someone you know, which is a warm call, or how to do a cold sales call, where, like, let's say, for example, you Google art consultants Texas, and you find an interesting firm that has art that looks like you could see your art in their projects. How do you call that consultant and sound professional? So I have a whole script around conducting sales calls. I talk about how to seek out opportunities. And I have this really interesting schedule where I literally lay out how we plan our gallery marketing to sell for the entire year.
Hmm.
So I have a marketing plan in there. So this is part of, there's a 65-page course workbook and a checklist. It's in order. So it's really a little course. It's printable. You can print it, and you can use it ongoingly. Once you're in the class, the portal's yours forever. There's no plan on taking it down. And again, it's go at your own pace. I have a lot of bonus videos in there. So that's the Sales 1 class, self-study. I also have a Sales 2 class that's starting in a couple weeks. And it's a 5-month program I'll be teaching live with a group of students. And the course meets once a month in the evening, Tuesday nights, by Zoom. It's a 90-minute live session with me where I do the teaching and then some live coaching. This is kind of a level up. I have this love of Zoom events, and I started doing online sales. It wasn't Zoom at the time. That hadn't been invented yet.
Hmm.
So by the time COVID hit, I had been 3 years into doing events online. So a lot of artists either have never done a Zoom event or they've done one, but nothing really happened from it. They didn't get a great audience. They didn't get any sales. So,
What kind of events are you talking about exactly?
so studio, like something unique. I'm going to be working
Studio
with
tour or?
either a tour or a specialty talk,
Mhm,
something about your process. I'm literally going to be honing in with each artist in the group in the class
mhm,
on what your Zoom event should be. And then I have a whole way to market and create it. And then the end result for you would be creating your own Zoom event.
mhm,
And then I'll be doing my own Zoom events in October, where you would get to sit in the room with me and this event and watch how I conduct it as part of the program. I'll be doing an even deeper live session where you'll watch me do an event and you'll see how that goes. Um, I'm going to be covering building partnerships and collaborating. This is a huge part of my business, and a lot of artists have never collaborated, or
mhm,
they don't know much on how to do this to drive a result. And usually the result is around a deeper relationship and sales. Here's an example. I've been collaborating for 15 years with Bucknell University. I do 1 or 2 events a year with them. The last event we did was in the fall. We had a young group of Bucknellians come in. We did an artist talk that was tailored toward young collectors. I brought in a local winery that was brand new. They
mhm,
served wine. And what ended up happening was one of the couples that attended, they loved it so much, they bought a work of art. The winery that we brought in to collaborate on the event ended up loving the artist, and they commissioned him to do labels for 5 bottles of wine. And he
mhm.
got paid for his design work. So, we probably made off of a 90-minute event, $3,000. Maybe that doesn't sound like a lot. However, that put that money in the artist's pocket and we created new relationships. So I love partnerships and collaboration. I'm going to be teaching how to utilize that in your own career. Another topic that is kind of a more advanced topic is how do you build loyalty in the marketplace and through your relationships? I've coached a lot of artists on deepening their relationships with their galleries, deepening their relationships with collectors and people in their life who enjoy and want to support them. And I'll be covering how do you actually do that? What's the checklist? What does it look like? And then the last month is going to be communication for success, how to communicate successfully, and then also how to do presentations with materials that are successful, whether it's an artist portfolio for a gallery packet. I'm going to be teaching how to give presentations and not give them, but how to create materials that create success for yourself. And briefly, and I'm going to send this to Ray by email. He can forward it to you guys. These are the dates. It's Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the classes are recorded. You get that. And then I have a Slack group where anyone in this Sales 2 class has access to me and my direct coaching. People love the Slack group because they literally can message me and tell me what's going on if they're stuck. There are 2 price points for these classes. The Sales 1 class is $697. The Sales 2 class on its own is $1,100 for the 5 months and my coaching. However, I'm offering the combination of both classes for Ray's group at $1,400. That's a discount. It would be about $1,800 if you bought them individually. So I'm discounting it down. I have room in the Sales 2 class still. We have a couple spots. And I'll put this in an email so that you guys have it. And I would love to have anyone in this group join us. It's going to be phenomenal.
I'm going to send these links out when I send you a link to this recording.
Great.
After this is over. So you'll get it either tonight or tomorrow morning, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I am very driven by artists getting results if they work with me. And actually, Ray and I coached Ray for, was it 6 months? I can't remember.
Somewhere between 3 and 6 months.
Yeah, he did one-on-one coaching with me and had some really incredible things come out of it. Some new ideas that resulted in more sales for him. And I would say his investment with me more than paid for itself.
I would say that. And I also want to say about just coaching, because we had this call after you did your original talk, Bridgette. We have a follow-up, what we call a deep dive call the week after. And everybody, of course, was raving about it and loved it. And we got on the topic of coaching. And the thing about a good coach is like, a good coach just isn't an accountability partner. It just isn't also a person who drives you to make sales or to reach your goals. It's somebody who comes with another perspective on your work and your career. And the thing that I thought was the most valuable about working with you was, yes, I mean, it was as simple as you pointing out how my collage rocks could actually go on the wall, and that created a whole, body of work, but also just other ways of brainstorming, how to get to where I needed to go. So 2 minds are always better than one. And I think that's the big takeaway for me with coaching is I learned a lot of the things that you just discussed and implemented them, but I had a partner that helped me to get there and gave me critical and creative feedback along the way. And that's the value I found in your coaching. So
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I have a lot of positive testimonials. My whole thing is if someone's going to spend time and money in the room with me, they better get a result. And when I started this in 2017, I wasn't sure. I was like, it works in my world. Can I make it work for artists? And I can't tell you, there's been, I don't know, a couple hundred success stories. And that's what drives me to keep doing this. I'm sharing, Erin recently wrote this testimonial. She was in this Sales One class, and she's a student of learning. She teaches and she wants to keep growing her career. I've helped Erin have additional galleries. She, was not doing that well financially when I started working with her. She had a lot of debt. Um, she's now well on her way to, she's doubled her earnings after learning the material. She's applied it. And I have a lot of stories like this where someone was like, I was not doing anything. And then all of a sudden things just went completely in the other direction for them. And they just keep redoing the material over and over because it works. So on my website, bridgettemeyer.com, I do have some more success stories, and I have an Instagram for Art MBA. It's Bridgette Mayer Art MBA, and there's a lot of testimonials on that. And I think it's important for artists to hear from their colleagues, like how is it, um, and is it worth it? Is it worth spending $697? What did it get you? Or making a $1,400 investment with someone that you're meeting? Will it do anything for you? And my commitment is always give so much value that the artist's results are, there's just, yes, you've got a ton of value and ton of results from being in my program. So I look forward to I'll